folks, we have seen the past week, all of a sudden, lots of attention focused on black folks who are missing. Why? Because mainstream media got criticized on this very issue. All of a sudden, the major networks start, oh, what's going on? We got to sit here and cover African Americans. One of the folks who's been missing for a little over a month was Jelani Day, a student at Illinois State University, disappeared on August 24th. It was reported missing on August 25th. Yesterday, of course, we had to give the sad news that his body was found in the Illinois River. Joining us right now on the show is Jelani's mother, who, and I can only imagine how difficult this is, having to spend the past month wondering where her son is. Carmen Day joins us right now. First and foremost, Carmen, certainly our condolences for this very difficult news. First and foremost, it had to be aggravating and frustrating to watch networks send reporters to Denver, to Florida, to New York, to all over America, covering the case of this missing white woman whose body was found. And I'm not diminishing at all that story, but the resources that was put into that. And you and others were going, hey, can someone explain to me what happened to my son?
I don't even think the word is frustrating. It was disrespectful, because it was showing me that the media, the police, the FBI, they thought that this young white girl was more important than my young black son. And I was mad, I was angry, because the same focus and the same attention that I have been asking for and pleading for and begging for, I couldn't receive.
Your son was seen coming out of a dispensary, and then that was it. When were you notified that he was missing? What did the cops do? Was there a real investigation? Was there an actual search for him?
I found out he was missing on Wednesday evening, which would have been the 25th. My son, my oldest son, had called me and said, Mom, the police are here and they're looking for Jelani. And I was like, looking for Jelani for what? He said, the police want to know, have you talked to Jelani? I was like, yeah, I just talked to Jelani. On that particular day, I thought I had talked to Jelani on that Tuesday. But as I scrolled through my phone, I realized I hadn't spoken to Jelani since Monday. And I guess the reason I thought I had spoken to Jelani on Tuesday, because on Monday, Jelani had called me so much that I thought I had talked to him on Tuesday. So Wednesday, when I got off of work and DeAndre called me and told me that the police were looking for Jelani, I immediately hung up from DeAndre and I was calling Jelani's phone. Well, his phone went straight to voicemail, which at first didn't alarm me because Jelani's been known to put his phone on Do Not Disturb. But when he does that, I fussed at him so much that Jelani calls me right back just like that. Well, on this day, I didn't get a call back. So I texted him and I was like, call me ASAP. And I did not hear anything from him. So then my oldest son said, my mama go to Bloomington. Well, the police had came to my home, which is in Danville, Illinois, and I was 2 hours away. So DeAndre drove to Bloomington. In the meantime, I got more insight and information as to how or who came up with the fact that Jelani was missing. So it was this professor who had called. So I got her number and I called her. So after listening to her tell me that she has been texting with Jelani all Monday evening, about a little bit after 9, her and Jelani had been texting. They had been talking about some school stuff. And Jelani was supposed to meet with her that Tuesday because she said there was something that he had to get done for me. She said that he didn't show up on Tuesday. Then he didn't show up for his class on Wednesday. So she became worried, and she called the Red and White. I guess it's some group on campus that checks on the students if you don't see them, at 1 o'clock that afternoon. And by 5 p.m., she hadn't heard from them. So she went to her chair, and her chair contacted this group. And then the group told her that they had 24 hours to go look for Jelani. So instead of waiting the 24 hours, she said she contacted the police to do a wellness check on Jelani. So being that Jelani didn't list the apartment that we had purchased for him as his home address, the police ended up coming to my home in Danville because that was listed as his home address, which I'm grateful for because that gave me an alert that my child was missing. The police didn't let me know. I spoke to her. Then I spoke to this young girl, another white girl that was in Jelani's class that was upset, and she had contacted one of my daughter's friends and said that she hadn't heard from Jelani. So I contacted the young lady, wanted to know what her and Jelani relationship was, when was the last time she talked to him. My son by this time had gotten to Bloomington, went to Jelani's apartment. There was no sign of Jelani. I called the police officer back, told him to meet my son there. I ended up filing a missing persons report that night. The next morning, I got up early in the morning and checked the bank to see if Jelani's card had been swiped. And that's when I found out his card had purchased something at the Starbucks on Tuesday. I started doing my research then. I left Belleville, Illinois, and we went to Bloomington. I went to the Starbucks. I went to the school. I ended up speaking to the teacher in person, who then let me know. I found out that Jelani had actually been on the campus that Tuesday morning. At 6:50, he had logged into the computers on campus, put in some notes because he had clinicals that day, and he had 2 patients that he needed to see. However, he didn't show up for clinicals or the patient. I also found out that at that point, that's all I knew at that point, that he had been to Starbucks, and I knew he had been there since 7 something in the morning. Moving forward, I later learned that the last ping on his phone was at 9:20. The detective that was then assigned to the case, let me back up because let's get to the part where how I got the detective. I called the professor because when I called the school to ask them if they had cameras, if they had seen my son, they kind of blew me off. It was like, okay, we'll get to it. So I called her because I'm like, okay, this is a faculty member, and maybe she can make some progress for me. So I had her check and see if we can get the cameras to look. When she called me back, she told me that the cameras had already been retrieved by the police. And that kind of puzzled me. I was like, what? Because I just reported him missing. I hadn't even told anyone that he had been to Starbucks. So how had they had the cameras from Starbucks? But I listened to her, and then she said that she knew somebody in the police department that was had some higher up authority, and they were going to get a detective on the case. And that is how I got a detective that day from her helping me. Got a detective that day. I spoke with the detective. I gave him everything that I knew. That's when we found out Jelani's last ping on his phone was at Veterans Parkway. The detective figured out that his ping, there were businesses in that area, and that's how we found out he was at Beyond Hello. Then they retrieved the video of him leaving Beyond Hello, and I see that he had on shirts and a shorts, which means he had changed his clothes from when he was at Starbucks that morning, because that morning when I seen him, he had on his dress shirt and dress slacks and dress shoes as if he was prepared for school to go on to his interviews or his clinicals. Now I'm thinking, what deterred my son from taking care of his business? Because it had to be something. Somebody had to call him. He figured that he had to do something. So we requested video from campus. Initially, they just gave me the video footage of him being at Starbucks. After speaking with the detective and him checking with the school, they later monitor Jelani's swiping of his card and his movements around campus. We then obtained video. Jelani was actually on campus walking around. It looked like he was waiting for somebody or looking for somebody, and finally found out that he was waiting for the health center to open, because one of the things that he was supposed to meet this professor about that day was there was 2 parts that he needed to be done. He needed to get a TB test, and he had only completed one part of it. So he was getting that stuff done. And I'm assuming that when he went there, because nobody can remember speaking to him, but you do see him on the video, that they couldn't get in because it was by appointment only.
Well, I'm still trying to understand this, and this is why I'm just totally confused here. He comes up missing. Mm-hmm. Do they trace his steps? First of all, do they initiate a search? What actually happened to try to find him?
His mom, they discovered his car on the 25th, which was that Thursday evening.
And they discovered his car where?
In Peru, Illinois. His car was discovered in a wooded area in Peru, Illinois.
And how far is Peru, Illinois from Bloomington?
60 miles from Bloomington.
60 miles. So he was last seen in Bloomington, and we have a map up right now. His wallet was found where was his car found the same place where his wallet was found?
Not that I understand, no.
And then his body is found in the Illinois River. Do you believe foul play was involved in the death of your son, and have they determined the cause of death?
I definitely believe that foul play was involved. And no, they have not. The cause of his death is unknown at this time. They're trying to create the narrative that Jelani had mental issues and he was depressed, but the devil is a lie. There was nothing wrong with my son. He was not depressed about anything. He was not overwhelmed about anything. He had been in a program that was challenging. He went to an HBCU where he kept his GPA up to 3.3, 3.4 and higher, while he pledged online, while he was in a group on house arrest, and he pledged for them. He was a collegiate honor student. He did all of that, plus he partied. And I would get on him. I'd be like, Jelani, your grades better be good. And nothing ever failed with him. He kept all of it. So he knew pressure and he could handle pressure. So them trying to convey this or wanting to make me think that my son, because his dad is ill, because things were going on in school and it was a challenging program, that he was under pressure, is a lie. Jelani could handle all of that. he had been handling. He's handled many things. And so the fact that he's in Peru, which is a town that only comprises of 1% of Black people, that he's never been there before. I've never heard of it until they found his car there. Then they want me to think that he actually took his car, parked it in this wooded area that you would only know about this area if you are from there, that you have been there, or you lived and grown up there, because it's one of those areas where you just don't find by going down the street. It's tucked away. So he didn't park his car there. Then they want me to believe that he parked his car there and he walked his little happy self to this riverbank, took off his shoes and socks and his shorts, and put himself in the water and drowned himself. Number one, my son was on the swim team and he could swim. So none of it makes sense to me. And I'm not going to let them create a narrative that makes anyone think that my son had any kind of mental health issues, that he was not a strong young man. My son is smart. He was determined. He was goal-driven. He had things in his life that he wanted to accomplish, and somebody stole all of this from him. I don't know if they thought he had money because of the car he drove, or because of how well kept he was, or because of the way he kept himself up. But somebody did this to him, because Jelani didn't just drive himself to Peru. He didn't just put himself in a river. He didn't just drop his wallet in somebody's yard. He didn't just leave his lanyard laying on the ground. He didn't do none of that to himself. Somebody did it, and they didn't do nothing to try to find it out. That car was found on the 26th, which was a Thursday. By that Saturday, I conducted my own search, gathered people, had them in Peru. There was not one police officer there to help us, to guide us, to lead us, to show us anything. I even posted on social media. I don't know how to conduct a search, but I know I have to search. And whoever can help me, please join me in searching for my son. And people showed up. I did the search the next day in Bloomington, near his apartment, because my kids was like, Mama, let's search this area. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know where to search. Nobody was telling us anything. So I had to make moves on my own. I had to figure out things. My kids have been on computers trying to figure out things. We tried to get into his phone. His location turned off. Apple wouldn't help us, so we created a protest against Apple, had everybody tagging them until we could get some help. The police were telling me that they had to get a subpoena against Apple, and it would take sometimes it takes 6 months for Apple to respond. Not with this one, it wasn't going to take 6 months. I found Apple's policy. I texted to the detective. I gave him a number. I had people calling, just bombarding Apple with phone numbers. One of my friends found out that he sat on a board with somebody from Apple, and he contacted them for me. By that night at midnight, Apple had at least responded with some kind of spreadsheet, according to Detective Jones, with some information. That wasn't because they did anything. That was all because of the groundwork and the legwork that me and my friends and strangers put in for my son. After the Apple stuff, we had to still look for things. We're looking for clues. I had to hire a private investigator. I had to call Illinois Search and Rescue so that they can get involved, so that they can perform a search. And it was them that when that search that they conducted that found this body that they couldn't identify. That wasn't Peru. That wasn't Bloomington. That was me and my kids and my friends and people I didn't even know that were concerned about how I felt about my son. So we find this unidentified body on September 4th. They sent me in a room. They explained to me that they can't tell me anything because the decomposition of the body, and we would have to do DNA.
So you're saying you're saying his body was found September 4th?
September 4th.
It was found September 4th, and it wasn't until yesterday that they identified that that was indeed him.
It wasn't until yesterday.
So,
and the only reason that I feel like that happened on yesterday was because of all this pressure that I've put on them. Because I've talked about how inept the police have been. I've talked about how they have not provided me any kind of information. I've talked about how they haven't helped me in any kind of way. So I didn't want them anymore to help me do anything. I need the FBI. I needed the same coverage that when I woke up one morning, I saw this white girl plastered everywhere. I saw everybody talking about her. I saw her all on social media. And her parents said they hadn't talked to her in 2 weeks before they reported her missing. I hadn't talked to my son in 1 day before I reported him missing, and I didn't get nothing. Not nothing. But she had the FBI, and they had people looking for her everywhere. And I sat there, and do not get me wrong, Gabby, my heart goes out to her parents, because I know what it feels like to not know where your child is, to want to know where they is, to want to make sure they safe. I know what that feels like. I was sitting in that seat with her. But I didn't know what it felt like to have the FBI come in and use all their resources and to use everything they had to find her, to find their child. I didn't know what that felt like. They found her within 3 days. Day 30 is when I found out where my son was.
Carmen, there are other parents who are having to endure this same thing. We had a brother on, Daniel Robinson, on yesterday. And I hate to have to ask this question, but the reality is it's going to happen again. What advice do you give to anybody out there that if their child comes up missing, what they should do from the beginning? What would you tell them based upon what you've had to endure and what you still are enduring? What would you tell them that they need to do the moment that child is missing?
What my message to everybody now is, right now, while you still know where your child is, number one, use those locations. I don't care how old your child is. Use those locations. Those locations are very, very important.
So what you mean is make sure that those tracking devices are on. And let me tell you something. There's an app. I think it's called Mama Bear. My wife put it on my niece's phone, and the app is interesting because she can tell when they're in a vehicle how fast that vehicle is even going. And I think one day they were riding with somebody, and she sent a text. She said, "Tell them to slow down," because she actually saw it. And there are a lot of people who turn those tracking devices off. People talk about privacy, but what you're saying is that location service is important to be able to track those steps.
It's very important. For some reason, Jelani's location and everything was turned off. I don't understand as to why, but it was. So we were very limited on what we could see with Jelani's phone. The Mama Bear app, I never heard of it, but that's good. But I have all my kids on now on the Life 360, just like the Mama Bear app. It tells you how fast they going. It shows you where they been at, how long they were there, everything. It's important to let people know what you're doing, because you never know when they need to know that information to help you. I would also tell everyone that before this ever happens to anybody, I know our kids think we're nosy, but no passwords and usernames to things that they're in. And if they don't want you to know it right now, put it up somewhere. Tell them you don't want to be nosy. You just want to make sure that if at any time you need it, it's available to you, because it's a help. Those things can help you. But if it does happen to you, I would advise anyone, do not let up. Don't take no for an answer of anything. Do not let anyone tell you that we don't think that he's here. If you feel like that's where your child was, never let no one stop you. Follow your intuition. Follow your gut. Do exactly what you feel should be done. If they get mad, if they get pissed, that's on them. What I did in this whole process was I tried not to be the angry Black female, the aggressive woman that they would think didn't want to work with them, because I wanted them to find my son. I should have been that same angry Black woman from the gate, because that's what put the fire under them to make them get off their butts and to make things happen. And they still didn't do it until I started talking negative about them. I had to get on here, had to get on news outlets, I had to get on media outlets and let everybody know that they wasn't doing their job, that my son wasn't getting what he deserved, that if you don't see the racial disparity because you see this white girl everywhere, and my Black son, who has been missing longer than her, is not being found and not being helped, something is wrong with this picture.
Indeed.
But I promise you, and I mean this, Jelani did not die in vain. Not only whoever did this, I hope if they see me to always know I'm going to find out what happened to him. But Jelani's name will be remembered. Jelani is going to make a difference. My son is going to make a difference. He's going to help somebody else. This was not done in vain, because my son told me that he wanted to do stuff to help people. His helping was to be a speech pathologist. But now he got a whole different movement. And since he spoke for other people and he's not here to speak for himself anymore, his mom will definitely be his voice.
Carmen Day, we're so sorry that you have to endure this. It is never an easy thing for any parent to have to bury their children. We often hear this, that children are supposed to bury their parents. And hopefully, we will see a change in police departments and others where they will not blow off African Americans who come up missing, because it happens all too often. We appreciate you joining with us and sharing your story with us. And we're going to continue to do our part to ensure to highlight other African Americans, because hopefully by using our medium on this show and Black Star Network and social media, that they united with their family.
Thank you for allowing me to come on here and share my story. Now I just want them to do their job and find the answers. I need answers. I need to know what happened to Jelani. They are now, I requested that the state police come in and take over. I asked for the FBI, and I'm still asking for the FBI. They think they are pacifying me because the FBI behavioral analysis unit is involved. But all that means is they're analyzing my son and his mindset. I needed the investigators involved. So I'm not stopping, and I'm not settling, and they will not just give me anything to pacify me. I want answers, and I thank you for allowing me to come on your platform and to let the world know that this is what I'm seeking, and I will need that support. I need your support. I need everybody's support. I need everybody's help. I need everybody's prayers. I just want answers now.
Carmen Day, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Backdrop roll mark unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?